dear sister. Welcome for this sharing. We live in challenging times related to Mother Earth and the climate crisis, social injustice, a lot of discrimination, separation, and tensions. There's a lot of emotions coming up among people, both activists and non-activists, like anger, fear, despair, even depression, maybe frustration, maybe a feeling of injustice because of the poor suffering more from the climate crisis than other people. What would you say to all those people around the globe? How to deal with their strong emotions related to the situation of Mother Earth?
Dear friends, when I bowed just now, I give rise to the thought of gratitude to Mother Earth. Calling the Earth as Mother Earth is already a wonderful practice. Our teacher emphasized that, and I've learned to call the Earth as Mother Earth. I think most of us out there, we just call planet Earth the Earth, it. So, using loving speech is a wonderful practice that helps connect us to what we care so much about, to our cause. And it's also right speech. Because when we have strong emotions, we actually use inflammatory language, very harsh speech, negative speech, speech that can cause the triggering of stronger emotions. It can cause tension and pain to our body, to our mind, and the body and minds of others. So to me, right there, the practice of using loving speech, right speech, can already be a balm to us, helps us to approach the difficult situations with care, concern, tenderness, and compassion. As you listed the problems that we may have in the world, climate change, social injustices, those are the traumas of our world. They've been there for a long time, and as we push them to the back, as we deny them their existence, we deny their existence, or we suppress those issues, or as we engage in them in a very frustrated, angry, anxious ways, they do not go away, but they become worsen in our own consciousness and in the collective consciousness. I've known peace activists who have no peace. There are peace activists who have left the United States, their own homeland, because they get so angry with the government. They have to live abroad. And so to me, when we recognize that this is a pain, a suffering, a trauma to ourselves and to the human species and all species on this earth, we, instead of running away from them or attacking these issues, what we need to do is to practice stopping and deep looking. Yeah, to take a moment to calm our minds and to relax our bodies and send love to ourselves. All these traumas are causing us health issues and mental issues. You know, for example, the pandemic. I'm sure social, climate change contributed to this pandemic. With the change in the climate, viruses and bacteria, they proliferate at different times. They can become more virulent. We invade the natural environment, and so then humans are more in contact with bacteria and viruses that we normally wouldn't. No, animals have thousands and millions of years to adapt to these viruses and bacteria, but as human beings, we've been sheltered from them. And now, as we cause deforestation, as we invade in their sacred spaces, then we are more exposed to them. For example, Lyme disease, which I have contracted as well. They've been there for thousands of years, but the human bodies are not, don't know how to respond to the Lyme bacteria. And so in that way, the bacteria invades the body quite readily, quickly, and cause many symptoms. And there's not really a cure for it once it has entered the joint spaces, the muscles, and also the brain. See, so that's an example of how the change in the environment, the climate, can bring about more maladies, more illnesses to human beings. The pandemic is a result of that. And then we also see during the pandemic many social upheavals take place. They become more prominent, more salient, these problems. We see people, young people, children, teenagers, young adults have more problems with social anxiety, with depression, with domestic violence, with drug use, drug overdose, etc. So when we see this, we learn the nature of interbeing. This is because that is. This is not because that is not. So we don't get stuck in this individual suffering, in individual frame of mind, seeing that either this is all my problem or that's not my problem. That's the world's problem. That's other people's problem. And either we deny the problem or we get so wrapped up in it. So the practice of stopping, of coming back and taking care of our body and mind, I think that's the kindest way to respond to the situation, whatever it may be. To come back and to see how alienated, far removed we've been from Mother Earth. For example, I have a niece who's 9 years old, and recently she's been diagnosed with myopia and astigmatism. So she's -2 diopter on her right eye, but the astigmatism is so severe. It's like the length of the eyeball maximum is 25 millimeter. That's 24 millimeter. That's the red line. Being 9 years old, the length of her eyeball is already 25 millimeter. And when I saw that graph, It just broke my heart. And children all over the world now are diagnosed with myopia and astigmatism. And a cause of it, a very small factor is genetic factor, but actually because children nowadays stay indoors, they're not exposed to sunlight. So that affects the development of their eyes. And because they use electronics at such an early age, that it causes myopia and astigmatism. So instead of 20% of the children have these problems, now it's 40%. In some countries, there are 80% of the children who suffer from that. And it's not only myopia and astigmatism that will be their lifelong problems, but the myopia and astigmatism can eventually lead to glaucoma, cataracts, and retinal detachment, which are main causes of blindness. You see? So when we stop and look deeply, we see that our lifestyle is hurting ourselves, hurting our future generations. Problems with neck pain, with back pain, with social awkwardness in young people. Nowadays they cannot really communicate with their parents, with their peers, person to person. They rather chat online. They're more comfortable with that. And that alienation starts at such a young age. Children are not as comfortable being outdoors anymore. When I play with my niece, she'll come out after 10 minutes. She said, "Can we go inside?" She doesn't have that connection with the earth, the way that many of us from older generations we have. I remember as a child, I ran in the rain. Now, when there was the rain, children would just run on the streets, and that was such a joy. Or we play on the ground. We play with dirt. We, lie down underneath a tree. That sense of closeness, of oneness with the earth. We learn to take refuge in the earth at an early age and became natural. So young people nowadays, I feel most of them don't have that relationship with the earth. And when we say we want to save the planet, how can you save something if you have no relations to it? You don't feel much for it. You feel more comfortable being encased and closed in the four concrete walls, you see? So the trauma of alienation, of disconnectedness, starts very early, at a very early age in our society nowadays. And it brings about the feelings of indifference, disconnectedness, alienation, of dullness. Young people are not happy. They have everything, all the material wealth. Their parents work so hard to supply them, to give them, but they don't feel lives have a meaning. And so in that way, they live just day by day, not knowing what's the meaning of life and why they even exist. So when you are unhappy, in brief, you really don't care. You don't care about the earth. You don't care about social justice. You don't care about yourself. You don't care about others. You don't care about animals, plants, and minerals, you see? So the practice of stopping and deep looking helps us to see the state of the world that each of us, we are in. And we learn to calm down those emotions. We learn to send love to ourselves, to have compassion for ourselves, and to find a way to be more connected again to ourselves, to each other, to the earth. Because care, love gives us energy, shows us a way out. I brought with me a few things. This is how I do things, very small ways. I'm sure many of us ask ourselves, what can we do? We are so small in this big world. What can we do to change, to affect change, to bring some positivity in the world? So I do very small things. For example, I've had this tiny box container for almost 4 years now. It was discarded, so I reused it, and I use it as my little garbage can. I put it by my study table, by my bed. Every piece of paper that I use, I put in here. Instead of just throwing it away, this is my recycling bin. Every tiny piece of paper, however small it is. Even this small. And my eye drops, the plastic, I put in here. And when it's filled, I put it in the recycling bin. Very tiny effort I make. But it reminds me to reduce, reuse, and recycle. If each one of us does this, day by day, moment to moment, we remember that we care, and we're doing something. You see? And then so when I do this day by day, when I go shopping, which I hardly ever, because I don't feel that need, the community, we live in a community, so everything we use is communal, and that reduces a lot of, personal trinkets and all sorts of things like that. And so I hardly ever go shopping. But when I go shopping, when I see something really nice, the second thought I have is that that'll just produce more trash. So then I don't feel the need to buy it anymore. You see, that daily awareness helps us to remember that we have enough. Do we really need to buy more, of that gift? Even a bag for the holidays, a paper bag with some nice print on it. It costs almost $2. A bigger bag could be $5. Yeah. And then we put a gift in there, we give it to somebody. That person throws that bag away or just tear the wrapping and throw it away. So mindlessly. So there's no care. And something in us when we don't care or we don't do anything about what we care about, something in us die slowly. That's our love, our compassion, our connection with that person, that situation, with the earth, with other species. You see? So, tiny acts. I remember this saying, think globally, but act locally. And it gives us a sense of purpose. And it reminds us of our mission. I use this. It's a hot water bottle. And so it can get quite cold here at our monastery because we live in a mountain. And instead of turning on the heater every night, which causes, the use of electricity, and some sisters cannot really breathe with that. So many of us, we use this. We fill in the boiled water before we go to sleep. And as long as I have this on my belly and my hands put here, I feel warm, and then I can fall asleep. I don't wake up as often, because when I'm cold, I wake up often, then I have to use the restroom. But this keeps me warm, and then I can sleep better. And it costs a lot less electricity, you see? And sisters also use this when we have menstrual cramps. So instead of taking pills, we use this, and it helps us to relax and to feel comforted. And so you see, like the natural ways that we can live our life helps us to be closer to the earth, to be closer to those, who do all the hard work to care for us. In Vietnam, we use this cone hats. It's not those hats that nowadays we have by synthetic material. It's a certain kind of leaves. And people, they do this by hands. See? It really helps you, helps cover your whole face. It's so wonderful. And it is compostable when it's not functional anymore. But I've used this. It can last 6-7 years or more, you see? And it covers us from the sun, from the rain, light rain, you see? And so there are many ways to live closer to the earth, and thus to live closer to our own nature and to each other's nature. We need to invest more in these simple ways. When I was talking about recycling, I helped with the cycling program here at the monastery for many years. And then I read up a little bit, and I learned that only 8% of what we send to the recycling centers actually get recycled. The rest of them get burned or just left in the waste field. Worse yet, sent to other poor countries, burned there or left there in their forests or dumped in the ocean. So when I hear things like that, it's just very disheartening. It's very painful. And for a moment, it made me think, so what's all my effort for? This tiny piece of paper and this tiny eye drop tube, looking at the vast amount of trash that is bigger than the size of Texas. What is my contribution in all this? So it's easy to fall into that trap, that feeling of helplessness and then indifference or numbness. But each one of us, we have to remember that all we can do is to do our part and to raise that collective awareness, because we all contribute to the problem and we all can help solve the problem. So think globally, but act locally, and reduce the usage more and reuse more. And I see that miserable, when we are unhappy and miserable, we consume a lot more. People go change their hairstyle, go buy clothes, drive aimlessly. They do things that are reckless when they're unhappy and miserable or depressed. But when we learn to take better care of ourselves, we send love to our body, to our mind. We practice sending compassion to the earth, to the people that we love and the people that we have problems with. May you be safe, may you be happy, may you heal. When we practice that day after day, and these concrete actions of love towards ourselves and the earth and others, we have more peace and optimism and positivity in our thoughts, in our views, in our speech, and in our bodily actions. And when we're happier and more peaceful, we don't have the need to consume. A lot less. We have less of a need to consume. We know that we have enough, and we are enough. Yeah. Many of us suffer from the feeling of not having enough, of not being enough. And so we try to compete. We try to be somebody. And at the expense of our own lives, of our own happiness, and at the expense of others and of Mother Earth. So being happy is very important. Being peaceful with ourselves, with our lives, is very important. Healing our trauma, learning to heal our trauma at the roots, that brings peace and happiness. Not the clothes that we buy, or the car, the new car that we get, or the big house that we get. That doesn't heal anything. It only adds burden to, to our already overloaded mind and work and responsibility. You see.
You shared about the alienation of, especially of the younger people, the young generation. It seems like a mirror of the alienation from Mother Earth. And actually, it's. I don't have children myself, but these children are the children of the older generation. How, in very practical ways, how is it possible for them and for all of us to heal our alienation, to connect, to reconnect, both with ourselves, with the earth, with our fellow human beings, in this world, big, beautiful world of separation?
Our lives are intimately connected to Mother Earth. It's just that we're not aware of it. We take it for granted. So in our spiritual life, we learn to recognize that interconnectedness. For example, when we practice walking meditation, we learn to be aware of our steps, that we're walking on Mother Earth, and we take steps that are gentle, mindful, loving. And Thay has taught us to take a step and say, healing, healing, healing. This step is for healing. This step is for transformation. Hello, I know you're there, and I'm very happy. So we take steps like that, and we feel how our feet move on the ground. We feel the contact of our feet on Mother Earth. We feel how our body is moving, and we see the sunlight, we see the trees, we listen, we hear the bird songs. That helps us to come back to the present moment, to nature that is around us, to the fact that we are always walking on Mother Earth, or sitting on Mother Earth, or lying on Mother Earth. Without Mother Earth, we do not exist, you see? So that interconnectedness is always there. But the awareness, the question is that is the awareness there or not? And when we have awareness, we actually feel connected, and we feel happier. We are connected to something greater than our worries, our self-interest. You see? And when we practice sitting meditation, again we come back to Mother Earth, because we sit solidly on the earth. And we come back to the breath, and we know that every breath that we take in, that we take in oxygen from the trees, from Mother Earth. And we give, when we exhale, that's carbon dioxide. And Mother Earth will receive that. The trees will absorb that, and then turn that to life force. So we practice eating meditation to be aware of where the food is coming from, to see the suffering that involves in the food that we receive. For example, if we eat meat, we know that the animals are raised in very closed, tight quarters. Antibiotics, growth hormones are injected into them so that they don't get sick, so that they grow fast. So those animals are raised, and they experience a lot of suffering, a lot of fear of, of death, fear of close confinement. And when we consume them, we consume those hormones, and so those antibiotics that lead to our own illnesses, like antibiotic resistant. We become more antibiotic resistant. So in that way, all of our spiritual practices, concretely, like walking meditation, sitting meditation, eating meditation, deep relaxation, helps us to feel connected to something greater than ourselves, and that is Mother Earth and all people and species on this earth. And then we feel embraced and loved and accepted. That helps heal us. When we suffer from trauma, what prevents us from healing is our daily fear and anxiety. We relive the trauma day by day. So time doesn't heal us. Time can worsen the anxiety and the depression and the trauma, because we rehearse and relive those traumas year after year. But when we can experience peace and safety in our own body, when we can be safe to ourselves, not doing things that bring more suffering to our own body and mind, not to consume, toxic materials, toxic conversations, toxic views that cause more suffering and malady to ourselves. Then we consume, nature. We consume positive thoughts, speech. We feel that peace, that connectedness. Then we feel safe. The body can only heal when it can relax. The mind can only heal when it feels safe. Otherwise, we are on this stress response chronically. If we are on a fight, flight, or freeze mode chronically, we cannot heal. Yeah. So the spiritual practice helps us to live a simpler, a more simple life, so that we have time to practice stopping and deep looking, to care for ourselves with more tenderness and compassion, and to care for Mother Earth and those around us. And caring for ourselves is caring for others. And caring for others, for Mother Earth, is caring for ourselves. You see, we need to teach our children, our young people, this early in their lives. We need to help people, adults, to come back to this truth. Many of us have gone very far away from this connection to the family, to Mother Earth. We have many ambitions, and mistakenly we think that when we achieve our ambitions and goals, we'll be happy. But we sacrifice all that means everything to us in the process. And in the end, we are bitter and disappointed more than feeling satisfied or happy, you see. So learning to come back to this simple life, to these simple mindful practices, can help us to get in touch again with ourselves and with life. We can implement more of these practices in schools. Many teachers, when they come to practice with us, they have learned to bring the bell back to their classrooms, and they would invite the bell before their class starts. And it's amazing. They say the children, the young people, love the sounds of the bell. They love that moment of silence. And they learn better. They behave better. The classroom atmosphere is much more peaceful, much more joyful, much more manageable for the teachers, and much more pleasant for the students themselves, you see. Recently, I also heard from a teacher. She said she brought the bell to her classroom. The students just loved it. But one day the principal came and told her, do not invite the bell in your classroom. I guess when people don't understand, they feel threatened, and they will forbid others from doing things that they don't understand. So I laugh and I said, maybe you can teach the children to practice the silent bell. So instead of having a small bell and inviting it, you can practice. You breathe, and then you clap. And you breathe in and breathe out. That's one breath. You breathe in and breathe out. That's two breaths. And you breathe in and breathe out, and smile and relax your whole body. That's 3 breaths. And children love this practice. We count 1, 2, 3, and we all clap, and we all breathe and smile and relax. See? So bring the children to field trips more often, help them to plant trees, allow them to play on the ground, to have a chance to interact with other animals, to be outdoors for their physical and mental development. That's for their sake, but also for their physical health as well as mental health now and in the future. And as adults, we also need to be outdoors more. We are too comfortable being indoors. We're too insulated, too isolated. So all of these simple practices help us to reconnect with the simplicity of life, and it can help us to also uncomplicate our minds. We become so caught in our own thoughts and views, and everything becomes so complicated, and we feel overwhelmed by those thoughts and views and emotions. So our mind is too cluttered to see solutions, to see things with fresh angle. You see, how can you have innovations and inventions if the mind is so cluttered, if the mind is thinking on the same track? So mindfulness practices help us to be more spacious and relaxed in body and mind, and that helps us to find solutions. How can we recycle better? You know, how can we inspire people to reuse and reduce more, to consume less? You see, how can we find other alternative ways so that we have alternative energies? You see, the young generation needs to get involved more in their own lives so that they can care more. They will have those inventions and innovations and investments more. They will help change. And the older generations, sometimes we're too set in our way. You see, maybe we grew up poor, or we struggle, or maybe we grew up rich, and we are too comfortable with our profits and gains and comforts, and we don't want to change. Or those of us who work very hard, we want to keep what we have. We don't want to release those comforts. And so in that way, it makes it harder for us to change our lifestyle, because we hang on to those profits and comforts. But if we think more of if we reflect upon our lives and see that those comforts and profits don't bring us true happiness, don't bring us deep peace, and that if something were to happen in the midst of the day, and if we die, we wouldn't have peace. We wouldn't feel that our life has been fulfilling or meaningful, then we are more motivated to change in small ways. We will change, and we also remember that it's not really saving the planet Earth, you know. The planet Earth has gone through major extinction. I think it's 5 times already, right? The Earth will survive. It will take millions and trillions more years for the Earth to recover, but the Earth most likely will survive. It's the human species that needs the saving, that needs to change, right? Other animal, many species have gone into extinction, but there will be many animal species that will survive as well. It is us who are most vulnerable. So in that way, we need to remember that we're doing this really for ourselves and for the future generations, and that if the plant and animal species are not safe, we cannot be safe. If the earth is not cared for, we cannot exist. And that is why we need to care for at different levels. Ourselves, because we will affect others, and we care for others, other species, because they care for us. They make our lives possible. We see that relationship, the interbeing relationship, or the interconnectedness in our existence.
I have 2 more questions, Sister. The first one, what does give you meaning in your life? Being a nun, you were a doctor before. What is the meaning that you have in this life?
Well, for many years of my life, I suffered from a lot of trauma in my childhood, all sorts of abuse, and then losses of my parents, of my grandmother, and then I moved to the U.S., which was a very big change for my brother and me, because we didn't have any relatives here, and we didn't speak their language, and we lived with foster parents, and we went through many foster homes. So it was a lot of adjustment for me to make. So for me, back then, the meaning of my life was to work very hard, to strive, to prove that I have a place in the world, that I deserve a place in the world, that I am somebody, which I did. I worked very hard. I finished high school. I went to college. I went to medical school. I got an MD. I had a wonderful, loving relationship with my partner, but I wasn't happy. I still went into bouts of depression, feeling overwhelmed by my work, by my medical training, but mainly feeling overwhelmed by my past suffering. It became something of a habit just to rehearse, relive the past traumas, and then fell into an episode of depression quite easily. So, and then after I graduated from medical school and was doing my residency, my partner passed away, and that was just so overwhelming for me. And of course it was because he died, and it was very painful, but it also caused me to relive all of my past traumas. And I saw no meaning in my life anymore. I was very suicidal for a while. Thankfully, I met the practice. I met Thay, our teacher, Zen Master Thich Nhat Han. And so that gave me a glimpse of hope. I saw that the practice could give me peace, could help me to transform my suffering, heal myself, and to have peace. And so with that hope, I left medicine and I went to Plum Village, France, and ordained as a nun. And I've been a nun for 21 years plus now. And surely it has brought me a lot of peace, a lot of transformation and healing. Now my past traumas, I feel that they have been healed mostly. Certainly you start with something gross and then it becomes more subtle. So I still work with that in terms of my views, my thoughts, my habits. So I slowly transform them. But I feel so much freer from my past. I don't have nightmares like I used to anymore. I don't have to run away from relationships, from being with others. I can be free. I can be myself a lot more. Mindfulness helps me to just be exactly who I am in that moment, to be aware of what's arising in me and to take care of it moment to moment. So for me, the meaning of my life has become to be my own soulmate. When I learned Chinese in my monastic life, the Chinese characters for soulmate is tri kỷ. It's also in Vietnamese, tri kỷ. And tri means to remember, to know, to master. And kỷ, wow, it means oneself. I always thought, I'm sure all of us always think that a soulmate is somebody who knows us, loves us, and accepts us unconditionally. But when I learned that a soulmate is one who remembers, who knows, who takes care of herself, himself, themselves, who masters her, his, their feelings and views and suffering, that was so liberating to me. So to me, I learned to be my own soulmate. Moment to moment, I come back and be a soulmate to my breathing, because my breath can tell me if I'm peaceful or I'm angry or I'm fearful in the moment. I learned to be a soulmate to my body, because the body will tell me if in that moment my body is relaxed, at ease, or that my body is tense, is in a defensive posture. You see? And being a soulmate to myself, I learned to be a soulmate to my thoughts and feelings, to say, hello, sadness. Hello, melancholy. Hello, disappointment. Hello, pain. I'm here for you. It's okay. Hello, helplessness. Hello, despair. Hello, fear. Hello, fear. I'm here for you. It's okay. I'm not a child anymore. I can take care of myself. It's okay. I can take care, of whatever that is arising, little by little. I'm here. So being able to be there for oneself, for myself, is the most important, powerful thing I've ever experienced in my life. Because those of us who have experienced trauma, we will know that we feel so powerless. And we distrust everything. We distrust people. We distrust situations. But most sadly, we distrust ourselves. We don't trust that we have the capacity to be there for ourselves, to heal ourselves. We cause more suffering to ourselves. The victim becomes the perpetrator. We repeat the pain, the actions that the abuser have imposed on us. Now we impose them on ourselves and on those we love, right? And so in that way, we lose that trust and confidence in ourselves, and that's most devastating. So for me to learn to be my own soulmate, I regain that trust, that confidence, that I can be here and now for myself and to take care of myself. And naturally, when you are a soulmate to yourself, you don't grasp for people and situations and material things for comfort, for love and acceptance. You are quite settled, at ease in yourself. And when you interact with others, it's because you have something to share. You have love, you have peace to share. So you can be a soulmate to your loved ones. You can be a soulmate to those you just meet for the first time, because you have that continual source of love and peace from within that you can generate moment to moment with mindful breathing, mindful walking, with just the practice of sending love and compassion to oneself and to those around us. So to me, it's great to have a chance to learn to be my own soulmate, to be a soulmate to others, the young people who come to the monastery, people of all different ages, to be a soulmate to Mother Earth, by just my way of gentle walking, simple living. I also help through my sharing, through my practice, help raise awareness in others so that they can be a soulmate to themselves and to Mother Earth. You see? And we affect change like that. It's like the ripple effect. You throw a rock into the vast body of water, it creates all these concentric circles, and it affects change. And so in that way, peace in oneself brings peace to the world. Joy in oneself brings joy to the world. Whatever we do in our daily life, we need to be more aware and more responsible of it, because it does make a difference.
You just showed me your small little box with the small papers, and I know you wrote 2 beautiful books, which the second I'm reading now, Flowers in the Dark. You share a lot. You are a Dharma teacher. I'm sure that the meaning is also the meaning of service, of sharing your freedom and peace and liberation with others. But from a perspective of related to Mother Earth, you feel, it's just a question, is not a judgment. You feel it is enough?
Well, we can always think it's never enough. That feeling of lacking can always be there, and it can nag us. How much is enough? So, on the one hand, what we can do is to live as fully as we can in our daily life, in our own capacity. For me, yes, it's more than enough to learn to be my own soulmate, because I was never my own soulmate for so many years. And so I caused a lot of suffering to myself and others. I think it's more than enough to be a soulmate to people, because people are so lonely. They're so isolated. And even when I look at somebody or give a child a hug, a woman who's lost 4 relatives in the pandemic, and to listen to her and to see the sparkle in her eyes again, yes, it's enough. It's more than enough. When I write my books, I have 3 books. They're all about my life experiences and my practice. Many people read them, and they can relate to my experiences, and they regain hope in themselves, hope for their healing and transformation. So that's the ripple effects that we can have in the world. That's more than enough. If I were a doctor, I don't think I would write 3 books, sorry. If I'm a doctor at this moment, I wonder if I would be a soulmate to myself and others. So in my humble way of being a nun, I feel that my life is more meaningful. Of course, I appreciate the doctors out there, the nurses, the health professionals out there, but I also hope that all of you have a chance to invest in your spiritual life so that your work can actually be more long-lasting and more meaningful, first and foremost to yourself, and then to your loved ones and to your patients. You see? So we learn to be at peace with ourselves, with what was, what is, and what will be. And when we have peace with that, we have more energy. We free up more energy to carry out actions that are effective. And actions here do not mean that you go out there and do things all the time. Actions here stem from stability, solidity, and clarity. These are what you can call the potential actions that will lead to like kinetic energies, potential energy, and then kinetic energy. We're always on the move. We always want to do something. But if we do not have that potential energy of stability, of calmness, of clarity, of peace, then our actions can actually lead to chaos. The actions can be chaotic. And so, yes, each one of us who is a spiritual practitioner or not a spiritual practitioner, but we can invest more in our calmness and clarity and solidity, that's more than enough, because we know that's the foundation for right views, right thinking, right speech, and right bodily actions.
Yeah, maybe you already answered, because my last question was, what is the quality of Mother Earth that you like most, that you love most? What is Mother Earth teaching you that you found as a center of your being?
I lost my mother at the age of 12. And even before she disappeared, I was hardly ever around her. She left me in the countryside with my grandmother to raise me, and she went to Saigon City to work, raise money, make money to send to my grandmother to take care of my grandmother, her siblings, and me, and then my brother. So for me, I really didn't know what it really meant to have a mother, because my mother was hardly ever around. I knew she sent money. I knew she bought me nice clothes. She kept us fed. But my mother suffered. She suffered. She was a victim of the Vietnam War too. So she had a lot of anger and sadness. So when she got frustrated, she would beat me quite violently. And she would scream at me and call to me names. And so a mother to me didn't mean something very pleasant. Actually, when she disappeared one day and she didn't come back, when I heard that news, I actually thought, oh good, now she's not around to abuse me anymore. I was only a 12-year-old child. So that was my first thought. But of course I grew up, and as I grew older, I felt I could understand more the pain in my mother as I became a woman myself. And as I practiced as a nun, I learned to live more peacefully and joyfully for my mother. I walk for her, I sit for her. I live this life with more freedom, with more inner peace for her. So that's my biological mother. Mother Earth has given me all that all my life, even when I was not aware of her really. Like I was sharing about running in the rain, getting so much joy from running in the rain. Being in nature, singing my own made-up songs, gave me comfort. And when I was in college and then medical school, I had friends who loved nature. So I learned to go hiking, to go camping. And that also brought a lot of peace. And I touched tranquility and beauty in nature. And that helped me, again, to be in touch with something greater than myself. And being a nun, we always live in a natural environment. Our teacher He loves nature. Our brothers and sisters, we love to go hiking, to sit and drink tea in the oak grove on a mountain. So I see that Mother Earth provides me all the comforts that I've ever needed in life. When I'm sad or when I'm tired, I just lie down on the earth and breathe and relax my whole body. And I say, Mother Earth, help me to take away, help me to absorb this fatigue, this pain, this heaviness. And I just release all of that into Mother Earth with my out breath and with my relaxation of the body. You see? So she provides me, Mother Earth provides us shelter, food, clothing. Everything we have comes from Mother Earth. The material things, and then also just the love and the comfort and the acceptance. When I walk unmindfully on the earth, she still absorbs it, right? She does not complain when we throw toxic materials into the water, into the earth. The earth transforms that or takes that in. So, and continues to give us life, gives us everything that we need. So, for me, this is the true mother, the true father that we ever, those of us who may not have parents, or may be orphans, or have lost our parents at an early age, or those of us who do not have a good relationship with our parents, we can always take refuge in Mother Earth and recognize her loving, forgiving, embracing qualities, and also see that we have those qualities and we can cultivate them so that we can experience more transformation and healing. And in appreciating Mother Earth, we've become more whole. I feel more whole, and I am more in touch with my own biological mother. And I also see that actually I have many mothers. Mother Earth is the great mother of all of us. But besides my biological mother, those who have cared for me, my teachers who taught me English, my teachers who taught me how to write in English, all the professors, Thay, my sisters, my brothers, the lay friends who have helped me in various ways, people I've met even just once, they affected my life, and they are my parents in one way or another. They are my siblings in one way or another. And that feeling of connectedness helps us to feel whole, For a very big part of my life, I always felt that I was lacking something. I felt incomplete. I wish I could be somebody else, not me. But the practice of mindfulness helps me to be a soulmate to myself, to be with what was, what is, and what will be, and not to be swept away by it. The practice of mindfulness, of mindful walking, mindful eating, of deep relaxation, helps me to be in touch with Mother Earth and to see that she is truly the great mother of all of us. My mother, the mother of my mother and of my grandmother. And slowly, I realize I am whole. Very often I say to myself, thank you. Thank you for you. Thank you for all the efforts you've made. Thank you, Mother Earth. Thank you, Thay. Thank you, life, for allowing me to be whole. I am whole. I don't lack anything. And I hope that all of you will also find a way home. Find a way back to that wholeness that is always there deep within you. It's always there. But because we are busy pursuing and seeking, we forget that we are whole. And the moment that we stop and come back and breathe and smile and relax and say, it's okay, I'm here, I'm still here, I love you, I'm whole. Regardless of the traumas, regardless of everything that is going on that we are not happy with, we are whole. And from that place of wholeness, we will have a lot of energy, a lot of positivity to take care of our lives and to take care of Mother Earth and of the human species and all species, because we know that we depend on each other. Be beautiful, be yourself. Know that you are whole. Bless you, my dear.